So, I've been reading Tokyo Revengers and Mi Familia, and I've been telling myself this for a while. Do both actually have in common? Yeah, what do both actually have in common? I mean, you see either things that, both focus on thrillers and generational stuff. But what is actually the reason? But what do they actually have in common? And what the edgy days? Yes, I call this the edgy days. These was the and why the edgy days is also considered the greatest. Well, let's get into that. Now, to understand Tokyo Revengers, we first gotta understand Mi Familia and where its origins lie in the 90s. Running from 1992 to 2016, and it had a lot of impact for what it could tell. It focused on generations just growing up. With Tokyo Revengers, you kind of see the same thing, except they're just millennials fighting each other in a way. Yeah. And you got the same thing and Mi Familia has the same thing Tokyo Revengers covers, but on a whole nother level. Now, I could argue to say which one impacted the edgy days, and Mi Familia has that in widely considered, because without Mi Familia, there'd be no Tokyo Revengers. There'd be no edginess. There'd be no what it was like growing up as a different generation. Now, as a millennial who just found out, as a person who just found out, was a Gen Z. Yes, I'm a Gen Z, not a millennial. Very much. Yeah, I've noted to explain in that, well, silent boomers generations in a whole. Silent boomers, silent generation. Well, boomers, silent generation. Gen X. Yeah, and Gen X grew up the hardest. Heck, you can argue and say that every generation grew up the hardest. In my perspective, Gen X was the most hardest. It's being beaten by a boomer and silent generation parents. You had to live through it as a Gen X. And not to mention, and just because it was a place where segregation didn't exist anymore, or began to fade away, doesn't mean your parents still didn't beat you. They still disciplined you. You had to suffer from a silent generation and boomer parents. And that's why I claim the Mi Familia to have impacted on the edgy days and what it felt like as a TNA movie and a TNA book. Heck, I could partially even tell you that Gen X is known to grow up hard, or some people can tell you for a fact that they grew up hard. Or heck, a YouTuber who is a Zennial can tell you that they grew up the hardest.
Let's talk about Gen X versus millennials. No, not in a street fight. Come on, Gen X. 80% of y'all are in your 50s now. One good swift kick to the knee and the fight would be over with. Don't get excited about that, millennials. Never forget, Gen X is crazy enough to hit you with their car. No, we're talking about how different they are. Why Gen X is considered harder than millennials. Gen X had it rough, from parenting, school, and even TV and movies. True Gen Xers were the first to live in a society where segregation was no longer a thing. Silent generation and boomer parents beat their kids for mistakes. You dropped a plate on the floor and it broke, you accidentally locked yourself out of the house. Gen X learned at an early age they had to take care of themselves and go to their parents as
basically that was was the main reason. Listen, and yes, a lot of their films were not about caring. They were about a lot of things.